on Belarus. Two questions, in fact. I'm wondering, one of the things that was decided by your foreign ministers was to look into the possibility of sending a fact-finding mission to Belarus right now. Can we get an update on if Mr. Borrell is in fact planning to go on a fact-finding mission? And secondly, another thing that was discussed was a trust fund for Belarus. Is that something that the Commission or the External Action Service is working on as well? Thank you.
Thank you for the questions, Ricard. Indeed, they will be for Nabila. To join me on stage with the many papers. Of course, it is very difficult for Nabila to anticipate much on Belarus, considering the fact that we are on the eve of a European Council which will discuss the situation in Belarus, and we will need to wait for certain important political matters until the leaders have met and discussed, which is tomorrow. But Nabila.
Good morning, Ricard. Thank you for your question. Regarding the fact or the mission, rather, that you asked about, as you know, it was. I would refer you to the statement by the HRVP yesterday, on Friday, or rather the press release that was published on Friday, where we gave all the outcome about it. For the moment, indeed, we cannot announce any mission at this point in time, but we will for sure communicate it at a later stage. If you could repeat your question, your second question, because I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
Yeah, no, Nabila, do you hear me? Yeah. The second question was about the trust fund, because another thing that was discussed and the Commission and the External Action Service, I believe, would look into is the possibility of establishing some sort of trust fund on top of the aid that already goes to Belarus from the Commission coffers. So do you have an update on that?
On this one, I will have to come back to you with more information. But at this point, you know, it was something that was discussed on Friday, and I cannot foresee much more. I cannot give you much more information at this point in time.
Nabila will get back to you on this should further information emerge. I will invite you now to signal your interest if you have additional questions on foreign affairs. First on this topic on Belarus for Nabila, since she's with me on the podium. So please keep your hand raised if your question is indeed on Belarus and is for Nabila. I see that Frédéric has his hand raised. So Frédéric, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can
hear you. My question is about the Green Deal, so maybe I'll pass and wait until you're done with Belarus.
Indeed, if you to conclude with Belarus. I understand that Krzysztof has a question for Nabila on Belarus. If that's the case, Krzysztof, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure whether it's for Nabila, because it's more general. What would be the message from the von der Leyen to the leaders on the Belarus, and maybe for Nabila, where are we now when the sanction? I know that the ministers. Can you hear me? I know that the ministers only gave the green lights on Friday, but maybe you could update us. Thank you.
The second part of your question, Krzysztof, was a bit interrupted with sound problems, so I will invite you to repeat it, because this is more a question for Nabila as a follow-up to the Foreign Affairs Council, if I understood correctly the context of your question. As regards
Indeed.
Yes. But as regards the first part of your question regarding the message that the President of the European Commission will bring to tomorrow's summit, allow me to reiterate what I said at the beginning, and I believe that by now the position of the President of the Commission regarding the situation in Belarus is well known, because she has for the past 9 days expressed her support for the people of Belarus. And secondly, she has also expressed her expectation that sanctions will be taken against those who are repressing peaceful demonstrations and basically that sanctions will be taken against those responsible for police brutality and the falsification of election results. So this is her very clear message, which she has been conveying over the past days since the situation has been developing in Belarus as we experience it following the elections. Regarding the second question, I believe that Nabila will need you to repeat it, if you don't mind, to make sure that we understand what is being requested.
When it comes to the sanctions, when can we expect any draft decision for the Council? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your question. And to complement what Dana was just saying on the sanction, as you know, at the latest Foreign Affairs Council video conference that took place on Friday, the ministers agreed on the need to sanction those responsible for violence, repression of peaceful protests, and the falsification of election results. The work on additional listing within the existing framework, sanctions framework for Belarus has already started. These additional listing will be prepared by the European External Action Service for discussion for an eventual adoption by EU member states in the Council. These listings will be prepared within the existing sanctions framework, as I already said, and for the moment, what I can say is that we cannot, the work has already started and I cannot speculate on when exactly it will be ready.
Work in progress. Thank you. I would want you to indicate by raising your hands if you have additional questions on Belarus for Nabila, since she's on stage. And I understand that Ansgar has a question for Nabila.
Yes, Ansgar from the German press agency dpa. Nabila, the High Rep announced on Friday evening a proposal for EU support in establishing and facilitating a dialogue between the political authorities in Belarus and the opposition. So I'm wondering if this proposal will be ready for tomorrow's meeting of the leaders. And I would also like to ask you if you could give us some details on the proposal. Thank you.
A tall order for Nabila to anticipate the European Council discussion.
Yes. I'm sorry, can you repeat the first part of the question that you just asked? Are you talking about the mediation efforts that the HRVP or
exactly.
Okay.
The High Rep announced this proposal for EU support in establishing and facilitating the dialogue.
So the foreign ministers discussed at the Foreign Affairs Council video conference options for EU support in view of resolving the current crisis situation in Belarus. And indeed, there was a strong agreement that the Belarusian political leadership needs to engage in dialogue with the opposition candidates and broader society. The European Union will therefore put forward to the Belarusian people, both authorities and broader public, a proposal for EU support in establishing and facilitating a dialogue between the political authorities, opposition, and broader societies in view of resolving the current crisis. So the High Representative Vice President and his services has already begun working on this. It is key that the Belarusian political leadership itself realizes that it needs to engage with its citizens, including the opposition, if a political way forward is to be found. Having said that, I cannot speculate on what will be said tomorrow. So we are work in progress also, and let's wait for tomorrow and we'll brief you on more.
Thank you, Nabila.
Perhaps if I may, I would like to know if this proposal or if a concrete proposal or support will be presented tomorrow at the leaders' meeting.
What I can tell you is that the High Representative and his services have begun work on the proposal, but we do not have further information to share with you at this stage.
And the High Representative will brief extensively tomorrow the leaders on the state of play of work on these strands, which were announced at the Foreign Affairs Council last Friday. I understand that Ricard has an additional question on Belarus for Nabila. If that's the case,
Yeah.
Ricard, go ahead.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and Nabila, you piqued my interest a bit when it comes to the sanctions. You talked about listings. I was just wondering, will the EU also propose to strengthen the arms embargo that is already in place and was renewed, I believe, this spring?
What I said earlier, Ricard, is that we are working within the existing framework. So the existing measures against Belarus are in place until the 28th February 2021. And these measures include an embargo on arms and on equipment that could be used for internal repression, as well as an asset freeze and travel ban against 4 people designated in connection with the unresolved disappearances of 2 opposition politicians, 1 businessman and 1 journalist in 1999 and 2000. For the moment, as you know, Friday's video conference was an informal meeting, so no formal decision could have been taken at this point, and we're waiting. But the ministers unanimously agreed that to launch the technical work to prepare additional listing, and work has begun immediately. So to answer your question, we're working on the listing.
Thank you for that, Nabila. I will now invite you to ask additional questions to Nabila, if you have, on Belarus.